In the fog-covered peaks of a remote mountainous city, there lived a legend, whispered from generation to generation. Every once in a while, under the glow of the full moon, a strange mushroom would appear on the outskirts of the city, glowing faintly in the shadows. Its appearance signaled the coming of something terrible. The townspeople called it the phantom mushroom. Over the last 500 years, it had appeared exactly 5 times, each time heralding calamity, natural disasters, accidents, and unexplained deaths. The mushroom had become more than a myth. It was a harbinger of doom. The people of the city lived in constant fear of its return, each generation more superstitious than the last. Whenever rumors of its reappearance spread, the streets would empty, and the city would fall into a ghostly silence. This time, however, something was different. As the news of the mushroom's 6th appearance spread, an unusual sense of urgency filled the air. Arjun, a college student living in the city, was always intrigued by the stories. Unlike the rest of the town, he wasn't one to believe in curses and superstitions. A science major, Arjun had always sought rational explanations for the unexplainable. However, something about the mushroom had always piqued his interest. Every time it had appeared, strange disasters followed, landslides, freak storms, and in some cases tragic accidents. Yet the mushroom itself seemed too small, too innocuous to be the cause. One evening, after hearing rumors of the mushroom's return, Arjun decided to investigate for himself. The townspeople were already locking themselves inside their homes, preparing for the worst. But Arjun couldn't ignore the nagging curiosity that pushed him to go deeper. He grabbed his flashlight and began hiking towards the outskirts of the city, up the mountain trails where the mushroom was said to appear. The forest was thick with fog, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape. The air was heavy, filled with an unspoken tension. As Arjun reached the site of the mushroom, he noticed something strange. There it was, just as the stories described. A faintly glowing mushroom, no larger than his hand, sat in a clearing. But instead of turning back, Arjun knelt down to inspect it. As he did, something caught his eye. Ancient carvings etched into the stones around the mushroom. They looked like symbols, too intricate to be random. Curiosity took over, and Arjun began to explore further. Nearby, he found an abandoned temple, its entrance hidden by overgrown vines. Inside the temple, he discovered more of the same symbols, along with old scrolls that seemed to tell a forgotten story. It was here that Arjun made a startling discovery. The mushroom wasn't a curse at all. It was a warning. The scrolls told the tale of a time long ago when the people of the city lived in harmony with the mountain. But as they grew more prosperous, they began to take more than the land could give. The balance between the city and the mountain was disrupted, and the mushroom appeared as a guardian, a signal that the natural balance was in danger. The disasters that followed weren't caused by the mushroom, but by the city's actions. The mushroom had always appeared when the balance was at its most fragile, warning the city of impending catastrophe. But the people had misunderstood, blaming the mushroom for the tragedies, when in fact, it had been trying to protect them all along. Armed with this new knowledge, Arjun knew he had to act quickly. The mushroom's appearance this time wasn't just a warning, it was a final plea. The city had grown too careless, and the mountain's anger was about to be unleashed. As he made his way back to the city, Arjun could feel the ground tremble beneath his feet. The sky darkened, and a fierce wind began to howl through the mountains. He rushed to the city's council, trying to explain what he had discovered, but the elders refused to listen, too blinded by fear and superstition. Desperate, Arjun turned to his friends for help. Together, they returned to the temple, where they discovered the final part of the scroll. It contained instructions for an ancient ritual that could restore the balance, but it required the mushroom itself. The group made their way back to the clearing, where the mushroom still sat, glowing ominously. Just as Arjun reached for it, the ground shook violently. A landslide began to form on the mountain, and the city below was in imminent danger. With no time to waste, Arjun performed the ritual, as described in the scroll. As the last words left his lips, the mushroom's glow intensified, and the ground stopped shaking. The air grew still, and the dark clouds began to part. The mushroom had vanished, leaving behind only silence. The ritual had worked, and the balance had been restored. The city was saved, but only just. In the days that followed, the townspeople began to realize the truth. The mushroom was never their enemy. It was their protector. Arjun's discovery changed the way the city viewed its past, and for the first time in centuries, they embraced the mountain's wisdom instead of fearing it. But as Arjun stood atop the mountain, gazing at the city below, he couldn't shake the feeling that the mushroom would one day return. And when it did, would the city be ready to listen? The end.